All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody around the world. So, welcome to the VET S.O.S podcast. My name is Keith, and some of you have seen me on the previous podcast. Sean is not with us today. He is out recovering from a surgery. So, we wish him well. But filling in for him, we've got the amazing Eric Brew. Good morning, Eric. How you doing?
Brother, if I was any better, I'd be twins. I'm stoked to be back. I hear I've got to cover down for a couple of weeks. I think that's probably because Sean is a slacker. I told him to take a knee face out and drink water, but he, the Intel guys don't listen like that.
Yeah. Well, and they're all about like that whole work-life balance thing and taking care of their families and themselves.
Never heard of her.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, all right. So, everybody, again, welcome to the VET S.O.S podcast. It's brought to you by the Who You Know Network and is a proud member of the Parade Deck community. VET S.O.S can now be heard on Wreaths Across America Radio on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. And you can find Wreaths Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and the TuneIn app. And today we are joined by the amazing Jack Tilley, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. And we're super excited to get into this conversation and learn more about all the amazing things that Jack is doing to continue helping our community. So with that, good sir, just real quick, I'll read a little bit about you and then we'll hand it over to you. So Jack L. Tilley served as the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army from June 2000 to January 2004. He is a Vietnam War veteran. Sergeant Major of the Army, Tilley has held a variety of important leadership positions throughout his 36-year career. And now retired Sergeant Major of the Army, Tilley continues to serve as an advisor, a leader, and a supporter of all service members, veterans, and their families as co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation. And as a host of your Next Mission podcast, he serves to impart his experience and advice to those transitioning from military to civilian life. Good evening, Jack. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am living the dream. It is so awesome to have you on here. I don't know if you remember, we actually met in person back at AUSA last year. And I fanboyed a little bit back then, but I'm fanboying again now. So this is awesome.
You have a beard? Did you have a beard last time I seen you?
I did. Oh. Yeah. So I was actually representing my agency at the little employer section of AUSA that your organization had going for us. So yeah. It was amazing to meet you. You were my first, not technically my first Sergeant Major of the Army, but the first main one that I remember.
The only one you can remember. How's that?
Exactly. Yeah, I won't knock the previous guy, but I came in during his time, and yeah, I didn't know who he was yet. So you were the first one I remember. So
also my first Sergeant Major of the Army.
Exactly.
The thing about it, I got to be honest with you. When I was a sergeant, a staff sergeant, and sergeant first, I really didn't give a shit who the Sergeant Major of the Army was, because well, I mean that's the truth. I mean, because now when I got a little bit senior now, first sergeant and stuff, and a sergeant major, you better figure out who the Sergeant Major of the Army is. But because you're you're down there at the bottom, you're just trying to get your job done. And you're not worried about anything else. Yep. So that's the way to do it.
Yeah. That's what I was like, until I had to go to the board, for the E5 board, that was the first time I really had to care really who anybody was, kind of thing. You had to learn the support channel and all that stuff. So absolutely.
Well, the first board I went to, I just had to remember my name. I was nervous as heck, and I was lucky I got through the shit. So
yeah, I failed my first board. So I'll throw that out there.
Well, did you ever go to Audie Murphy? I went to the Audie Murphy board in Germany, and driving around Frankfurt is sort of a goat screw anyway. So I was driving around Frankfurt. It took me a long time to find out where I had to go. So I was almost late when I ran in there. As soon as I walked in, they said, "You're next." I said, "Oh God!" So I sat down. I don't even think I remember. And anyway, I didn't pass that board. I always sort of bothered. They said you could come back. I said, no, I'm PCSing back to the States. Thanks a lot, but no thanks.
That is awesome. So it is an amazing honor to have you on here. I have kept tabs on some of the great things that you're doing. So just kind of go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers what you've been up to and kind of a little bit about these amazing organizations that you're a part of.
Well, it's, I stayed in the Army a long time. I stayed in about 36 years, like you said here a little while ago. But when I got out, I wanted to continue to serve. you know, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I did concerts for 10 years around the country. Alan Jackson, Trace Atkins, James Otto, Martin McBride, Leanne Womack, Phil Vassar, Charlie Daniels, Hank Williams, Kenny Vassar, Kenny Loggins. So, I tried to do as much as I can to give money back to veterans to help out. So I did that for a long time. Also opened up, I have a small company with 10 employees, 10 guys that work with me, all retired sergeant majors. We got one first sergeant, and I got the accountant's a Korean lady, which keeps us all straight about stuff. And the first sergeant gives us hell all the time about everything. So we're sort of clicking. But I also wanted to give back. And so I started with Ted Hacker, a good friend of mine out of Nashville. Wanted to give back to the veteran communities. So I did a few shows before I retired. I took some people overseas to entertain soldiers or service members overseas. And I really liked it. So when I retired, I said, hey, look, maybe I can do this again. And I wanted to do like a variety show. But we talked to a few people and they said, hey, look, if you do a variety show, you're going to cut certain groups out, so just focus in one specific area. So we said, okay, we'll do country music. And so we did country music for a long time. I think we gave somewhere around a couple $1 million away back to veterans, but it's expensive to do those shows. It can range from, $100,000 to $500,000 to do a show. And then when COVID hit, we tried to do a webinar, had about 1,000 people in the webinar, and it just, you had to work your can off. I didn't do a whole lot of work. The other guys did, but they said they was working their can off. So they told me that. And then one day I tried to do a podcast with a company I was consulting for, and they came and said, hey, let's do a podcast. I said, oh man, that's a great idea. You can be the host. I said, wait a minute. I didn't really want to be the host. But we started doing a podcast, and we've reached a lot of people, and we started to really get a little bit of traction. I told you a minute ago, I think just on YouTube, we have almost 11,000 following. There's 17 million veterans out there, and we'd like to get a lot more, of course. But in the 24 months, about 8.9 million, I think, impressions. Just as somebody looking at our stuff, but on our posts, on the shorts that we put on there, anywhere from 50 to about 180,000 hits. But what gets me, and I'll be quiet because I'm probably rambling on a little bit. What gets me about veterans is that we got to stick together. We got to help each other out. It doesn't matter if you're a sergeant major, a 4-star general, or a private or whatever. If you're a private, you probably got kicked out. But if you're a service member, you got to pull together and help each other out as much as you can. Now, I'm going to give you some stats here real quick. There's incarcerated in this country since 2001. Now, as the stats I'm working with, is maybe a little bit different now. There's about 200,000 veterans that are incarcerated, which breaks my heart at the state and federal level. Since 2001, about over 7,000 people have been killed in this war. The war that we're fighting. Even though people think we're not fighting a war, we're still fighting something. Over 7,000 have died. Veterans, the VA, this is their stats. VA, about 86,000 are homeless. And here's the one that really gets me. And I'm sure the number's different because, this is probably a few months off now. But more than 139,000 veterans have taken their life by suicide. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, and I got to be honest, and you guys too, not just me, but all of us that's retired from the military, you raised your hand, said, I'll protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that meant a couple of things. One is you're willing to die for the freedoms, and you're also willing to take a life of somebody else to protect our country.
Yep.
And that transition out of the military for some of us is really tough. Because you struggle and I don't know how, we can probably talk about that for a long time, but it's hard to fit back into the civilian community because they don't speak the same language. And it's really a struggle. So I really, probably till the day I die, I'm going to do all I can to help the veteran community, with anything that I can. I want to give back. I want to give money. I want to do something. I want to talk to them, but I want to help as many of them, not just the veterans, but the veteran and their families, with as much as I can. So that's really what my focus is. That's what my focus will be until I'm no longer on this earth.
Well, I got to tell you, Sergeant Major, you know, I've been in the veteran advocacy and veteran employment transition space. I had been for quite some time, and your name is synonymous with those senior folks that love our veterans, that love our military, and that love their families. So just from one young vet to maybe a slightly older vet, thank you.
Wait, hold on. Let's hold on.
Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for everything that you continue to do. I want to know a little bit more about American Freedom Foundation. Now, I know Ted is a great guy. So tell our listeners just a little bit more about American Freedom Foundation. What is the mission? What are you guys doing now? I know we started out with some concerts, but what are we doing now?
Well, now we're really focused on, we're doing job fairs around the country. We do about 4 or 5 job fairs a year. And Ted will get mad if he hears this number, but we've never really, we've been doing these job fairs for a long time. So one day I was talking to Ted, I said, hey, look, give me an idea about, you know, how many people we've hired. And he said, well, we really don't know. And I think, well, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 that we probably put to work. But the neat thing about this, usually we have anywhere from 30 to 40 companies come into these hiring events that want to hire veterans. And so, like I said, we've been doing this for over 10 years, I guess it is now. But so we're doing a pretty good job, and we're trying to focus on putting veterans and families to work. The second thing we do is like I told you guys a little while ago, is about Your Next Mission podcast that we're doing. You know, we have so many veterans out there struggling. We got to find ways to reach out to them and talk to them. So during COVID, like I said, we tried to do a webinar, and then somebody said, let's do a podcast. And I said, well, sure, let's do it. And they said, well, you can be the host. I said, I didn't volunteer for that. But if it helps veterans, I don't mind doing it, and I'll struggle through it. I'll do the best I can. And so we started in a garage in just a couple of blocks from where I live in Florida. And then we moved to San Diego. And then from San Diego was a long flight. And then we moved from San Diego to Nashville. Now, it was a 3-camera shoot. Now it's a 2-camera shoot, very professionally done. But we just need to educate our country about the sacrifices of our veterans and families. And we also need to educate our veterans about how to properly transition out of the military. And also all the other organizations that are out there willing to help them with, you know, with mental issues or just any issues that they have that we can help them with. You know, veterans are really sort of sometimes scared to ask for help. You don't want, God, I am talking too much, but and I'll be quiet here in a second, but our DNA says keep everything to ourselves. Yeah. And we don't talk to people about stuff. If I got something, I got a chink in my arm, I'm not going to tell you, because that's where I was trained. Well, we need to be a little bit open and say, hey, look, I got some issues. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down and see what you can do maybe to help me, or maybe point me in the right direction. I think that's what we really got to do. We got to help as many as we can. And that last thing I think we need to do is I was the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. I'm proud about that. But on the 12th day of each month, I ask our listeners to reach out to a veteran, to a family member, just check on them, see how they're doing. Just say, hey, bud, what's going on? And can I help you with anything? Because, you know, I've had I don't know about you, but I've had probably 4 or 5 people that I know personally that have taken their life by suicide. I had one was a senior sergeant major that told his wife, she went shopping, said, I'll see you later, let the dog out, went down the woods and took his life. So we got to do better. This is really a national crisis, and we just can't talk about it. We got to do something about it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you touched on something about not knowing when, or not even not knowing how to ask for help. You know, when I was a first sergeant, it wasn't real popular. And I'm confident that when you were the Sergeant Major of the Army, it wasn't popular for us senior guys to say, I don't know. No, I don't know is not a popular. That's not an answer you give. Right. Yeah. But I think it's really important that as we transition, we realize we don't know. And it's okay. Yeah. And this is maybe one of the first times in your career, maybe the first time in your life where it's been okay to say, I don't know. I don't know what's next, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't know where to find the help. And I think that's what's great about Your Next Mission and the literally thousands of people that you've reached using your platform. People across this country, people in all different walks of life have platforms where they have an opportunity to reach people, and not everybody's using it for wholesome, good things or in selfless reasons, right? So to see, you know, folks like you and Ted setting up things like American Freedom Foundation and Your Next Mission to actually reach people and to actually do some good, for our community, I think is just incredible.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
And I get it. We get hung up on the metrics, right? Metrics drive ratings and money and all that kind of good stuff. But I mean, there's so many intangibles, right? And especially with like the American Freedom Foundation. I've attended one of the hiring events that was put on by the American Freedom Foundation at USA. And, you know, I operate somewhat in the recruiting space, but more so just veterans in general from my federal agency. And all that to say, you know, you can track the numbers of the folks that you've hired, which is still an amazing number. I mean, one veteran hired is a success, right? It's a win. But the intangibles, right? Because I've been at the American Freedom Foundation hiring events where we get to, even if I don't hire that veteran, I'm talking to that veteran. That veteran is learning. And I've been on that side of the table too, where I'm going when I was retiring out myself and I was going to those vets, I was learning from these recruiters, especially if they were veterans. They were imparting such invaluable knowledge, you know, that I'm now able to turn around and do reciprocate to those that are getting out. So, I mean, yeah, you know, several thousand, you know, hires is still a huge thing, but just, I mean, exponentially larger is just the number of veterans that have been personally touched by this program, by the things that you're doing. And they may not even realize it, but you're reaching people in such a positive way and you're making their transitions just that little bit smoother, right? Because employment, especially, that's the big thing that stresses most of us out. That's most of where the gray in my beard came from, you know, and you know, and having those hard, right? So, and having those hard conversations too, you know, about suicide and mental well-being and you know, I don't hide it anymore. I'm a suicide attempt survivor myself. You know, I've been in that dark place and I've had friends take their own lives as well. And so, yeah, you know, the fact that we're able to now, and people like yourself with the titles that you bring, you know, is, you know, much as you may want to downplay them, you know, but you bring a lot to the table. And so when you're willing to have that hard conversation with folks and say, look, we've got an issue here and it needs to be addressed. I mean, you're making a huge impact. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you for that as well. So,
well, you know, I got to tell you something, you know, I don't know if you know it or not. I think a lot of people probably do. You know, I spent about 9 months in reform school when I was a kid. I was a terrible kid. I mean, I think if I'd have stayed home in my life, I'd have probably died early, maybe 20, 25 or something like that. And I think a lot of people have, maybe not a lot, but there's a few people that way. But going to reform school, you need to somebody needs to sort of push you in a different direction. Changed my life, and you couldn't get me to do anything wrong. And then going into the military, and the military changed my life in so many positive ways. Yeah, it made me who I am today. Now, some people say that's not very good, but I think I'm okay. But it really pointed me in the right direction about about loyalty, commitment, getting the job done, being just all the positive things, and it really helped me out so much that, you know, I got out and I'm in a pretty stable place right now in my life, owning a company, helping veterans financially. I'm really feeling pretty good about all the things that I'm doing. My grandkids love that too, because I can help them out a great deal too. But life's been pretty good, but we can't stop there. We got to continue to help the veteran community, and we got to figure out ways for them to reach out to us. Here's the other thing I think is really sort of critical. We need to do a better job in the military. I wish I had thought about this when I was there, about how they process and how they prepare for transition. We ought to start talking about transition, about a lot more about what war is like and how you're going to come out of war. War changed me mentally. I look at things differently. I mean, if I get around something that makes me a little bit thinking about different things, I'll tear up a little bit, stuff to get through that stuff. So we got to start talking about how you're going to feel when you come out of war. We just don't talk about it. We sort of ignore it a little bit.
Yeah. So with all of that being said, I think we would be remiss. I think we would miss a huge opportunity if we didn't ask the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, what is the single greatest piece of advice you would give to someone who's getting ready to transition?
I think probably prepare, make sure you start that process about 2 years out and that, preparing yourself to get out of service. There's so much to do, pay all your bills off, know where you want to live, Start networking so you can find a job. Make sure you should have a resume when you come in the Army and sort of keep building on it as you go through. The networking part is really important because you're reaching out to other people. You know, I told you I have a company. All the guys in my company are all veterans. Reach out to veteran guys and gals that want to hire you. I mean, you're going to give them a resume and a 214, but that's probably enough. But reach out to people that can point you in the right direction. Last thing I'll be quiet really is that find a mentor. Find 2 or 3 mentors that you can reach out and say, look, I'm going to get ready to get out of the service. Give me some good advice. Give me some things that you ought to think about. But just don't have one. Have at least 2 or 3 that you can reach out to. And they can check your resume out, talk to you about employment. I always ask people, how much are you worth? You know, what's your worth when you get out of the military? Somebody asked me that in the Pentagon when I was getting out. He said, Sergeant Major, how much do you think you're worth when you get out? I said, I don't know, 50,000 a year or something. The guy said, no, you can make a little more than that. I said, okay, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, and you're speaking my language, Sergeant Major. I've actually tried to coin the hashtag find a mentor, find 10.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we're preaching the same message for sure. You know, it's just so important that you build a board of advisors, you know, and statistics drive what you're saying too, right? Networking, depending on which statistics you read, because they all vary a little bit, but 70 to 85%. So even the lowest statistic I've seen, 70% of all jobs are attained through networking, right? Yep. That's huge. That's pretty much 3 out of 4, you know. And even I lived that. Like I've had 5 jobs since I retired from the Army, and 4 out of my 5 jobs I got through networking. They were, you know, I knew somebody on the inside. Yep. So, you know, service members, we need to reach them sooner. That 2-year mark is so crucial. What you got, Eric?
So I started this tradition last year at the MIC, and I asked a buddy of yours, Sergeant Major retired John Wayne Troxel. Yeah. I asked him the same question. So I'm going to ask you the same question. And I loved his answer. I'm curious what you would say. So, Sergeant Major, if you were facing today's commanders, sergeants major, today's commanders and first sergeants, as they have to navigate the loss of troops, right? As troops are exiting their formations, what would you tell them about how they should let soldiers exit the military?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is make sure you allow them to have the time to prepare themselves to get out of the service. Too many people say, look, I need you for this deployment. I used to tell people, hey, look, you're going to be gone tomorrow, but you need to make sure that you allow them to give them the time to get out of the service. The second thing is sometimes people get out and they're sort of irritated by the way they was treated when they was getting out. Properly give them the appropriate award for their time in the military. Thank them for all the service and all they've done. Make sure you give them the time to get their education. Even in the unit, make sure you prepare people to get that education so when they get out of the service, they can find good employment. But I think the biggest thing you can give somebody that's getting out of service, I think, is give them time to get ready to get out of the service so they have all those additional, the additional things that they could do to help them and their family, I guess. I'm not sure what Troxel said. What Troxel say?
It was very along the same lines. He got, Sergeant Major Troxel. He got a little bit more direct. He got a little bit more, he was a little intense, but that's his nature. But it's really the same advice, right? Give these guys and gals time that they need. And I'll tell you, it's in the Army song, right? We should take on the mentality of our song. It says the Army goes rolling along. The Army's going to keep moving. Let your boy, let them go. Let them ETS, let them med board, let them retire, let them exit with honor and dignity and assist them in that.
Well, the thing about it is if they get out with a poor attitude, what are they going to do? They're going to badmouth the Army forever.
Absolutely.
Right? If I get out, don't go in the Army. They treat you like shit when you get out. But if you leave, I got to tell you a story. So I'm at the United States Central Command, and I sit on the awards board. Just got there, and I sit down on the board, and there's a 1-star, I think, is in charge of the board. I'm sitting there, and he says, okay, we're going to vote on the awards. And Sergeant Major, you don't vote on the officer awards, but we vote on yours. What? So you vote on the enlisted, but I can't vote on the officers. So we said, okay. So I went through the first board. At the end of that board, I went up to that general and said, hey, look, sir, that's not how it works. I vote on everything. Because they would downgrade the enlisted awards. If they want an MSM, they give an R. I said, man, come on now, guys. It was me against all of them. So on the next board, the general said, well, Sergeant Major is going to vote on the officer award. And, oh, everything changed then. I didn't have a problem. As soon as they said some shit, nope. Boy, they say, hey, Sergeant Major, come on now. We can, okay, but make sure you're fair. And so I'd let the enlisted guys go first. We'd vote on theirs first. If they treated them right, then I would treat them right. But they wasn't going to screw over the enlisted guys. So that pissed me off. So it's important to have the appropriate award. But I got to tell you, when I was getting out of service, they said, well, Sergeant Major, we're going to give you an award. I said, no. They said, why? I said, because I got to get another bar. I don't want to get another bar. All that shit's expensive.
I love it.
I hate to say it, but I think every time I received an award, I was just like, oh, I saw those dollar signs. Like, I gotta buy something else. I gotta put something else on my uniform. Like, just give me a coin. Like, I've got a whole rack of coins. I love coins. Yeah. Coins are great.
Just a pat on the back will do. I'm good.
Yeah, the first 4 years, it's exciting. Like when you get your second ribbon, like you get the one ribbon. It's like once you get 2 or 3, you're like, yeah, and then after that, you're like, ah, crap.
Well, you know, when I was a first sergeant in Korea, they was giving awards out, and so they put me in for an MSM for PCS. And when we got down there, they downgraded it to an RCOM. And I got up there and I just proud to give me accept my RCOM and stuff. And then the brigade sergeant major came over and said, hey, look, Tilley, if you extend 6 months, we'll make that an MSM. I said, mail it to me.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. I can't believe it. Keith, I don't know if you know this or not, but this is our first episode together.
It is.
We started off with the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, and we're already out of time.
Can you believe that? Oh, we can't be out of time.
I know, right?
I know, it's insane. That's insane. Okay, so Sergeant Major, our viewers want to know. They're going to figure out. They've seen the ticker tape going down below. They see the websites, but what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's really 2 ways. One is smatilley@unitexmission.org. You can shoot us an email, and we have the producers will see it and all that other stuff. And I'll make sure I got the number right. You can also call 844-424-1134. And we really want people to reach out to us. Tell us what you would like to have on the show. If there's a specific subject that you say, look, I'm worried about this, we're not talking enough about this, or whatever it is. And we'll look at it. If it makes sense for all our veterans and their families, we'll put them on the show. We'll reach out to them, and we'll do whatever we can to make it the best show we can. And then the last thing I'll tell you is that you can't be out there by yourself. If you're struggling by yourself, know that there's people like you and me that want to help you as much as we can. But we got to pull together. Yeah. And, you know, I said before, we got about 11,000 people. I think. On YouTube, on social media, I want to say that too. On social media, get out there because that'll help you too. Talk to each other. Don't put the negative stuff on social media. Yep. Put the positive stuff. Talk positive, and let people help you. But use that social media, especially when you process out of service. But yeah, that's reach out to me, and I'll try to do all we can to put the right kind of things on the show. Not just me, but of course, Ted's running everything. I at least got a word in there every once in a while. But.
Well, I got to thank you, Sergeant Major. I mean, to have a man that's put literal decades into leading and setting an example for the rest of us to follow, I appreciate the example that you set for me personally. And for the rest of us, I just appreciate everything that you've done for me and for us. And so thank you for being here. On behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for listening and joining with us today. Make sure you follow and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms. We're on all of them. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. We'll see y'all later.